Hello everyone, welcome to Physio Brainry. In this video, I'm going to explain in brief about the anatomy of peritoneum. Coming to the contents, by the end of this video, you will be able to understand about the introduction for the different layers of peritoneum, or the difference between the male and female peritoneum, or the different faults in peritoneum, and what are the functions of peritoneum, and what are the clinical correlations of peritoneum. So coming to the introduction, the peritoneum is a large, thin serous membrane which lines the interior of the abdominopelvic cavity. So it is made up of tough layer of elastic tissue lined with a simple squamous epithelium and forms the largest serous sac of the body. So peritoneum is the largest serous sac of the human body. So it is similar to pleura and serous pericardium, consisting of parietal and visceral layers. So these are the different layers of the pericardium. Peritoneum, that is parietal and visceral peritoneum. So these layers are separated from each other by the potential space called peritoneal cavity. So there is a cavity, or there is a space that will be separating these two layers, that is the parietal and visceral layers. So that cavity is known as, or potential space is known as, peritoneal cavity. So in which this peritoneal cavity will be filled with capillary film of fluid. So this will be filled with a thin capillary film of fluid. So you can see here, this is the peritoneal cavity, and there will be two layers: superficial layer, or outer parietal layer, and inner visceral layers. And you can see there is a peritoneal cavity, and that will be filled with the fluid, capillary film of fluids. And what are the different layers? Again, so initially the peritoneum forms a closed sac, but when it becomes invaginated by a number of abdominal viscera, so it is divided into two layers: an outer parietal layer and inner visceral layers. The folds of peritoneum by which the viscera are suspended are called as mesentery. So you can see here, so this is the outer layer, that is the parietal peritoneum, and this is the inner layer, that is the visceral peritoneum. And so viscera will be present, and this, in between these two layers, the parietal peritoneum and visceral peritoneum, inner layer, that is the visceral peritoneum, there will be a space that is known as peritoneal cavity, in which peritoneal fluid will be present. That will be helpful for lubricating and to avoid the friction between different organs present in the peritoneal cavity. So thus the peritoneum presents two layers: the parietal layer, called the parietal peritoneum, and visceral layer, that is the inner layer, that is called as visceral peritoneum. The parietal peritoneum is a simple layer lining the internal surface of the abdominopelvic walls, and the arrangement of the visceral layers is complex, and it forms folds which surrounds the intricately folded and tightly packed gut tube. And what are the difference between the parietal and visceral peritoneum? So the first way is the arrangement of the parietal layer of the peritoneum is simple, whereas in visceral peritoneum, the arrangement will be in complex form. And the parietal peritoneum, the inner surface lines the inner surface of the abdominopelvic walls, from which it is separated by the extraperitoneal connective tissues and therefore can be easily stripped off. But in visceral peritoneum, it forms the mesenteries which surrounds the intricately folded and tightly packed gut tube, liver, and spleen. It is firmly adherent to the outer surface of the viscera and cannot be stripped off. In fact, it forms the part and parcel of the viscera. So next, in parietal peritoneum, embryologically it is derived from the somatopleuric layer of the lateral plate mesoderm, and in visceral peritoneum, in embryological development, it is derived from the splanchopleuric layer of the lateral plate mesoderm. And in parietal peritoneum, it is innervated by the somatic nerves, therefore it is sensitive to pain due to prick and cut. And visceral peritoneum, it is innervated by the autonomic nerves, and therefore it is insensitive to pain due to prick and cut. So these are the difference between the parietal and visceral peritoneum. And what are the differences between the gender, that is the male and female peritoneum? So in the male, the peritoneum is a closed serous sac lined with the mesothelium, that is the squamous epithelium. And in the female, the peritoneum is not a closed sac because it communicates with the exterior through the uterine tubes, uterus, and vagina. So this is also the female peritoneum is also lined by the mesothelium, that is the squamous epithelium, as in males. So coming to the folds, these are formed by the visceral layer of the peritoneum. Many organs within the abdomen are suspended by the peritoneal folds. These organs are mobile within the abdominal cavity. The degree and direction of their mobility depends on the size and direction of the folds. Apart from allowing mobility to organs, the peritoneal folds also provide pathway for passage to nerve vessels and lymphatics. So apart from the location or presence of the organs within this peritoneal folds, these also provide pathways for the passage of your nerves, vessels, and lymphatics that supplies the different organs over the peritoneal cavity. And the organs that lies outside the peritoneal cavity, that is the retroperitoneal organs, are fixed and immobile. Some organs are initially suspended by the peritoneal folds, that is, they possess mesenteries, but later on loses their mesenteries by a process called zygosis and become retroperitoneal. In the early stages, some organs will be initially suspended in the peritoneal folds, that is, they process some mesenteries, that is the fold, irregular folds, but later on they will be losing their mesenteries through a process called as zygosis, and they will be becoming retroperitoneals. So that means that will be present that organs, retroperitoneal organs, are the organs that lie outside the peritoneal cavity. So what are the different retroperitoneal organs, which includes the primary and secondary retroperitoneal classifications? And the primary retroperitoneal organs are your kidneys, suprarenal glands, and ureters. And the secondary retroperitoneal organs that occurs as a result of this zygosis process because of their mesentery has been lost. So that includes your pancreas except your tail, duodenum except the initial 2 centimeter, ascending colon, descending colon, cecum, and upper 2/3 of your rectum. So these are the retroperitoneal organs. That is the organs that is present outside the peritoneal cavity. And coming to the classifications of the peritoneal folds, the peritoneal folds are classified into 3 types. That is the mesentery or mesocolon, ommenta, and the ligaments. So what is mesentery or mesocolons? These are the folds suspending the small intestine is called as mesentery, and the folds suspending the colon is called as mesocolon. And about the ommenta, that is cingular omentum, these are the peritoneal folds that connecting the stomach with the other viscera. Examples are greater omentum, that is the folds connecting the stomach with the transverse colon, and lesser omentum, that is the folds connecting the stomach with the liver, and gastrosplenic omentum, that is the folds connecting between the stomach and the spleen. And next is the ligaments. So these are the folds that connects organ to the abdominal wall or organs to organs. The examples are gastrosplenic ligaments that connects between stomach and spleen, and lienorenal ligaments that connects the kidney and spleen, and coronary ligaments that will be connecting the liver with the diaphragm. So these are the ligaments. And coming to the functions of peritoneum, it provides a slippery surface for the free movement of the abdominal viscera. It provides a moist surface to prevent friction between the adjacent viscera, and guards the viscera against infection by phagocytic cells within its mesothelial lining. It prevents the spread of infection by wrapping around the inflamed site and sealing the site of perforation by its fold, that is greater omentum, and provides a large surface area for the absorption of fluids. It provides healing power for its mesothelial cells, which can transform into fibroblasts, and it provides storage of fat in its folds, that is greater, for example, in greater omentum, particularly in obese persons. So these are about the functions of peritoneum. And coming to the clinical correlation of peritoneum, first one is the peritoneal dialysis. So peritoneal dialysis is a procedure by which waste products such as urea are removed from the blood in patients with renal failure. Next clinical correlation is paracentesis abdominis. So it is a procedure by which excessive collection of intraperitoneal fluid is evacuated by the cannula inserted through the abdominal wall. So this is paracentesis abdominis. And coming to the summary, the peritoneum, just a quick recap. That is, the first one is the peritoneum is the largest serous sac of the body, and the peritoneum consists of 2 layers, that is outer parietal layer and inner visceral layers. The folds of peritoneum by which viscera are suspended are called as mesentery, and the peritoneal folds are classified into 3 types. They are mesentery or mesocolon, ommenta or omentum, and the ligaments, various ligaments. And that is a procedure by which waste products such as urea are removed from the blood in patients with renal failure. So this is peritoneal dialysis. The peritoneal dialysis is a procedure by which waste products such as urea are removed from the blood in patients with renal failure. The procedure by which excessive collection of intraperitoneal fluid is evacuated by cannula inserted through the abdominal wall is known as paracentesis abdominis. So it is a paracentesis abdominis is a procedure by which excessive collection of intraperitoneal fluid is evacuated by cannula inserted through the abdominal wall. So these are the references. And this is all about the anatomy of peritoneum. Thank you for watching this video. Please do subscribe my channel and share this video to your physio friends and fraternity. Thank you.